Hello, I am Stephen Dickinson, and I will be presenting an analysis of an Air Force communications unit from a socio-technical system perspective within the General Systems Theory Framework as part of the ITM 590 Integrative Project Case Assignment presentation for the Capstone course. Modern organizations are dynamic and complex socio-technical systems with multiple interacting layers and hierarchies. Now, these organizations can be further dissected to examine how the overall structure of an organization impacts operations, and even how the internal culture of the organization and various sections significantly impact technology. Internal and external forces impact their environment too, including operations and strategic plans, which requires them to adapt rapidly. Chief executive officers, chief information officers, and even military commanders must constantly lead and steer their organizations with the foundation based on policies, standards, and guidelines to keep systems functioning per regulations, laws, and even best practices. But the management and control of socio-technical systems is made more difficult than just managing information technology systems alone, due to the complexities that managing people, technology, and the environment bring to the table. Now, when viewed from a general systems theory perspective, additional insights can be drawn from viewing organizations holistically. With that being said, let us move on to the overview of this presentation and examine what will be covered. To begin, we will discuss the Air Force Communications Unit, its mission, structure, and strategic role as the focal point for this presentation. Then we'll move on to the personal role of this presenter's position within the organization. And with that framework set and understood, we can then move on to the general systems theory perspectives and socio-technical system principles that provide the services, products, and outputs, and how this organization, this communications unit, has a strategic role. Technological barriers exist within this organization, as well as civilian businesses, but the one specifically for the communications unit will be discussed, and how this unit goes about fostering technological success through various methodologies. Then we will discuss the internal and external environmental factors, such as socio-technical and economic, and how to manage those challenges by fostering improvement through the use of general systems theory and socio-technical systems perspectives and elements. And finally, in looking toward the future, we will discuss IT improvements, how plan change, cultivating an environment that adopts change and change practices, and how that is injected into systems lifecycle management. With that being said, let's move on to the current subject here, the Air Force Communications Unit. Now, typically, each Air Force base has a communications squadron or unit, which maintains and sustains IT systems and IT services for all members assigned to the installation. Now, these units are staffed to provide IT support for current operations through secure and non-secure enclaves, and develops budgets to expand services as required. This organization, which will be the focus of this assignment, consists of military, civilian, and contract personnel with an overall mission of providing command, control, communications, in other words, information technology, computers, and intelligence systems to enable the preparation of forces, deployment of personnel, and to promote U.S. interests. Specifically with the communications unit, the information technology and communication systems is going to be its daily mission. The deployment responsibility is a unique feature of a military unit over a commercial business and provides additional challenges within the context of general systems theory and socio-technical system principles. This unit in particular serves as the focal point for technical services for over 4,000 personnel residing in interior Alaska. From a strategic standpoint, the impacts of these services are felt worldwide as members and systems are deployed around the globe and are not isolated to just the installation itself. Now, strategically speaking, information technology and cyber systems are utilized in innovative and new ways to sustain operations and missions and enable future growth. The personal role of this presenter's position within the organization is as the operations superintendent, which is the senior enlisted member leading many functional areas within the organization. As described on this slide here, under the functional areas note, you'll notice that within operations you have everything from port activations to typical networking hardware such as switches and routers. We've got technicians, which I've put a note on here saying Geek Squad. These are our client systems technicians that either remotely or go out to the work centers themselves and fix computer problems or networking issues. Additional services and systems under the flight and under the operation of the superintendent. We've got the base equipment control, a communications focal point, which is the call center providing 24/7 operations for any computer issues that occur during or outside of the normal duty hours. Now, this is a management and supervisory position which requires the prioritization of daily work, managing people and tasks, information technology in accordance with the commander's direction, meeting with and coordinating vendor technical visits, training professional development to cultivate skilled technicians, and introducing innovative solutions for troublesome problems. Now, this graduate course has provided many key concepts and frameworks that have helped become even more effective in this role. One example is the complementary approach to merging people and technology systems, which is a requirement for the control element of information systems, decision-making, and effective communications, according to Molman and Brokois. Opportunities exist to budget for and acquire additional training for members to become even more effective at their jobs and implementing technology. Now, with this organizational framework established, it is time to move on and discuss the general systems theory and the perspectives, principles, and how it applies to this Air Force Communications Unit. The general systems theory principles focus on system structure, which includes the principles of holism, boundaries, hierarchy, mutuality, equilibrium, equifinality, and entropy. Now, these principles were discussed and implemented and brought about by Bertalanffy in 1969, who is known as the father of general systems theory. Now, this is precisely how the Air Force Communications Squadron is structured, with each tier or layer interfacing and impacting the others. Even though within the unit various sections may follow different chains of command and supervision, and think of this as the hierarchy piece. The internal environment consists of sections called flights, and as described on this drawing on this slide, you've got the commander at the top, who can be considered the CEO of the organization as a whole. And underneath that, there is a hierarchy, a layer of operations flight, which I am the superintendent for, and then there's another flight, which is of equal layer for plans and resources, which deal with budgetary constraints, quality assurance, and MILCON projects. And underneath that fall the technicians themselves. Now, this structure is comparable to many aspects of a civilian business in which there is a distinct leadership and management level at the top, and below that are lower level managers and supervisors who oversee each section. Now, at the lower tactical levels are the technicians who handle the daily trouble tickets, patching network, working technical projects and solutions, and deploying new IT systems throughout the base. Now, this hierarchical structure is designed to enhance the flow of communications upwards, downwards, and laterally. Joe Taylor Jr. Reports that effective leaders need to be able to match communication styles and specifically information flow to organizational norms, and this is clearly important in this military organizations, where getting the right information to operational leaders is critical and can be time dependent. Concerns with respect to general systems theories are interdependence of systems and the hierarchy, as well as continual replacement and upgrade of technology. Systems nearing end of life or end of service must be replaced. Policies must also be implemented to do this on a regular basis. Now, organizations do not operate solely on a systems approach. They rely on integration of the human element with technology. Now, this brings up a discussion on the socio-technical system principles, which involve integrating people, technology, and a critical piece for this discussion is the environment itself, and shows how to achieve high performance through commitment and opportunity to satisfy the needs at the worker or the technician level, as Strategos in 2017 describes. Socio-technical systems have two subsystems, one that focuses on the technical side, such as your policies, your practices, your tools, your IT systems themselves. And these systems do as they are programmed for. They are specifically written to perform a certain task, and they do it. There's not much more to think about other than it does the job that it is programmed and developed for. But the social subsystem, this is where it takes a little bit more input from the supervisor, from the leader, to take those employees, each with their own knowledge, skills, and abilities. That's what KSA stands for, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Each has their own background. Each brings their own skills to the table. So an aspect of socio-technical systems for a supervisor or manager would be how to motivate individuals, how to develop the commitment of those individuals to the organization to work with those technical subsystems, to get them at the level where they need to be performing at a high level. Now, it is widely accepted that the socio-technical system approach to systems development creates systems that are more acceptable to consumers and stakeholders because of the balance among these subsystems, as Ryman and Wadewald describe. Now, combining the social and technical elements of an organization, therefore, maximizes the outputs and creates business value. Creating business value is an essential aspect of business operations, and those organizations that know how to serve their customers and their missions are the ones who know how to generate real value through this connection, as brought up by Rosenblatt. While this military organization does not compete in the same manner as a typical civilian company, they must also make the best use of the products and systems within the specified budget to produce tangible outputs. And the overall goal of socio-technical systems in combining these social subsystems as well as this technical system is joint optimization, which is a holistic approach, a synergistic approach of ensuring both systems work smoothly together in a sustained manner. But even with the best investment in employees, as far as training and professional development and establishing a culture of accepting change and improvement and innovation, they can have the best training ever, but there may still be technological barriers in the environment. Remember, this is the environment piece that exists that must still be addressed and overcome. Which brings us to this next point, the technological barriers for continued IT success. As one may expect, one of the prime concerns in the military communications unit and even in civilian organization are budgetary constraints. As with businesses large and small, military organizations also compete for money and must efficiently utilize their funds to meet their obligations as dictated by the Department of Defense, all the way down to the individual base and units. Annual military budgets are passed, and by the time the money filters down to the unit level, only a small percentage of the total budget that was passed is available to be spent. And the challenge is to be in the best position and ready to execute funding as soon as the money hits each fiscal year. Or else the unit stands a chance at losing out on this funding to another unit who may be more prepared and ready to spend their money. Now, to put this into perspective, in recent surveys, budget limitations are the #1 barrier to the adoption of new technology in small businesses, as per Cobbler in 2015. Now, without an effective financial management plan, the organization will have to develop additional plans to move forward with either delays in technology and systems implementation, or find additional ways to get monies to cover these costs. The second technological barrier or challenge is training and professional development. Organizations rely on the talents and skills of their personnel to handle everything within their realm of responsibility. Along with this comes the challenge of keeping this talent current with the latest trends in information technology and engaged in the learning process to develop them for advancement. New members to the unit do not necessarily have the full knowledge and skills yet to be able to perform their full duties day one. Now, this is a normal process, but as new members come to the unit, they are enrolled in a professional training plan that develops their skills, their knowledge, and their abilities to get them to a level just as the seasoned technician who has been doing the job for years. Now, it takes planning and scheduling for certification to ensure that these technicians are industry certified to perform the administrative functions on an enterprise level. Additional challenges come up if there is a delay in training, or if the member is unable to obtain these skills, then it presents a challenge for continued success, and also puts additional pressures on those who are qualified to put in additional duties and additional time to cover this temporary gap. The third technological barrier deals with integrating new technology with legacy systems. Now, this barrier comes with the understanding and the need to upgrade your systems and evolve rapidly. But there is also a reliance on decades-old legacy systems in the military that are still in operational use and are still critical to daily operations and national security. It takes a considerable amount of money to sustain these systems and to perform preventive maintenance to ensure they are still reliable and performing as per specification. Many federal agencies and business, like military organizations, deal with the same issue as a challenge. And it has also been reported that agencies end up spending perhaps as much as 75% of their budget on maintaining legacy systems, as reported by Stogowski, Mesheri, and Hammer. Ensuring newly integrated technology is interoperable with these legacy systems, maintaining cybersecurity, IT sustainment, and maintaining constant operational capabilities are just a few of the key concerns and challenges when attempting modernization efforts. So how does this unit utilize general systems theory and socio-technical system principles and methodologies to foster success? That brings us to a three-pronged approach here that within this organization that faces these challenges and plans to overcome them. The first one being modernization. Now, even with these barriers as discussed, the organization does an exceptional job at fostering innovative solutions to these challenges and makes use of many benchmark programs to foster success. Modernization and implementing new systems are done strategically and jointly with commercial partners. This can be particularly beneficial in developing innovative solutions and merging new technology with older systems and keeping full operational capabilities of each. This applies to individual systems as well as the base infrastructure. Now, automation of many formerly manual processes is also an innovation that ties in with the whole modernization effort to increase efficiency. Now, the unit has developed call chains to route customers to specific offices for assistance, and has completely automated the processes for turning in and receiving IT equipment assets. Now, controls are also put in place where automation has been implemented to ensure they are sustained and provide acceptable performance for customers. Large projects are also in works to migrate many services, such as email, to cloud-based platforms at the enterprise level. Virtualization can be a game-changing solution to overcome the constraints of money, space, such as floor space, and even power requirements in a given data center. Just as an example, this communications unit virtualizes many functions, such as servers for applications. Kevin Patel identifies that virtualization of servers can cut the maintenance cost by as much as 40% for each virtual machine you install. Now, it is nice to have these virtualized services and servers centrally located, too, instead of having to find additional rack space and power for more hardware. Many applications are also virtualized, such as a virtual service desk application located right on everyone's desktop. For any issues, users can use this tool to fix many problems that arise in their computer. Should it be they need the latest Java or the latest Adobe patch. This virtual service can troubleshoot and install these applications for them, eliminating the need for them to call up the service desk or help desk, prioritizing their ticket and their trouble, and assigning a technician to come out and work that issue. Now, one of the most important elements to instill in an organization, especially from the top down, is to foster an environment that encourages open communications, collaboration, and embraces change. Andrew Field remarks that this paradigm shift changes the focus toward team success rather than simply individual achievements. And this is what collaboration is, working as a team, getting groups of people together as a team to focus their efforts. Now, when each feed into the responsibilities of the entire organization. So when you collaborate, you bring in perhaps all the other sections laterally up and down to produce results. When it comes to an IT environment, collaboration is achieved through many digital platforms, portals, and even the ability to tie into systems through approved mobile devices, which everybody is familiar with, or most personnel are familiar with. So might as well dig into and use that technology in a collaborative effort. Now, with this framework set, you've got the Air Force organization, you've got the general systems theory, socio-technical system perspectives and elements, and you've got the organization itself. Now, there are additional factors within and external to the organization that place additional demands on personnel and resources. In complex organizations, demands are placed on personnel, resources, and systems both internally and externally. These demands can be faced directly and even indirectly, depending upon which facet one is describing. They may have either a direct ability to change these factors, such as your internal environment, while the other dictates challenges to overcome, such as external environmental factors. Internal and external environmental factors occur simultaneously, but one may get a better sense of each by analyzing them separately with the ability to categorize them within the general systems theory, socio-technical system principles discussed thus far. Now, the internal environment consists of elements within the organization itself, and in this case is the culture and the people within the communications squadron. Now, these are items controllable and managed by the people and policies established within the organization. This internal environment includes employees and infrastructure, management supervisory levels, and even the culture as described within the unit, and measures to structure work processes, analyzing trends, and system security procedures are all within the realm of the internal environment. Now, within an internal policy, on mission accomplishment and innovation, this unit specifically seeks out new ways to assist and support base information technology users in achieving their own individual missions while teaching them safe and secure IT practices at the same time. Hatim Abakames notes that the strength of an organization's employees is a crucial internal factor. Remember, as described previously, how to cultivate this professionally developed and technically proficient technician can increase efficiencies and operations in the organization. Now, this ties directly into the socio-technical principles through motivation and commitment, and has a direct impact on the unit's efficiency and overall effectiveness. The unit commander and leadership levels throughout the organization can help build a culture of cross-communication and team building, which builds a reputation on being able to get the job done. The external environment now, shifting away from the internal, places additional demands upon the organization that are outside of its direct control. And so as a result, the organization must develop strategies and policies to deal with these demands. External environmental factors can be further subdivided into directly interactive, which are environmental elements that have direct influence on the organization, or indirectly interactive, which have a more distant impact. An example of a directly interactive factor would be the customers external to the organization who demand satisfaction with IT products and services they utilize and receive. These external demands are shaped by the support received by the technicians within the organization who carry the brunt of the daily trouble ticket resolution. Now, examples of indirectly interactive factors would be political or legal considerations, and even things like economic conditions, which in a struggling economy can place great pressures on the organization to continue to meet its obligations with a reduced operating budget. Plus, with less money to invest in future technologies, it can impact commercial partnerships. Political parties can influence laws, which the organization must then react to, and changes in the Department of Defense, which filter all the way down to the units, can impact daily operations. Now, although this external domain is large, it is important for organizations to focus on the elements which have the highest significance and impact. Strategic planning, even with this uncertainty, should be done to reduce the adverse impact of budgetary delays or projects that are unable to be completed on time. Furthermore, even though the organization may not have direct control over external resources, it can forge agreements with other units, other sections, to share scarce resources. And collaboration and joint ventures can reduce and even minimize risks to overall costs. And that leads us to a graphic here on this slide that shows how managing these challenges and fostering improvement are critical with strategically applying general systems theory and socio-technical system principles. Now, having a knowledge of and a strategic planning capabilities utilizing these principles can produce synergistic effects. And that's what this chart is showing, with 3 lines of effort utilizing from the general systems theory. Now, these are brought up by Lars Skytner. Now, general systems theory consists of goals to formulate systems theories such as dynamics, goal-oriented actions, historical developments, utilizing these methodically to describe the behavior and functions of a system, for example, its structure, and then with the knowledge of this, generalize system models to focus these efforts towards socio-technical systems. This is done strategically. Now, applying this to the Writers' Communication Squadron specifically, now these policies and guidelines are developed to handle daily information technology services. To meet those challenges that we brought up, as far as budgetary constraints or training professionally developing your personnel. Now, this organization has direct control of the local systems, but it's also part of the overall defense network. So if planning is not done strategically, it can impact organizations outside of this organization into the overall defense network into which it is plugged into. Now, this brings us to our last point here. We've been discussing so far a lot of principles of general systems and socio-technical principles, but how are these principles and this information, how is this applied to future development and leveraging future operations? Now, in the past, socio-technical system principles were not considered a critical piece of IT due to the limited exposure of systems to the common users. But as Mary Pratt reports, in today's highly complex and rapidly evolving industry, IT workers must have a much broader set of skills than they ever needed in the past. Engineers and administrators can no longer simply program in new functionality without considering the consumer's needs and desires. In this communications squadron, this unit, they're responsible for a communications enterprise, and the focus has been, in the past, on just information technology. But in moving into the future, current trends in communications and cyber operations has been a focus shift toward operationalizing IT through agile technologies and methodologies to provide mission assurance. Now, to foster improvement and effectively accomplish this, initiatives that address establishing effective cyber defense mechanisms, which are risk-focused, transforming IT services through innovation and things like partnering with industry, and adding flexibility, which means ensuring those administrators have the correct permissions and roles that they are assigned for, must be included to strategically move forward and advance information technology. This effort will merge the social and the technical elements while advancing the organization to meet future needs. This also ties in with a principle as discussed regarding modernization and the modernization life cycle, because this falls within this framework as well in moving forward and developing new systems and modernizing your infrastructure as a whole. Now, within this life cycle, you begin with developing an assessment roadmap. So in moving toward any future or unknown, a roadmap or a blueprint, such as using an IT portfolio management, is a critical first step. Ensuring your readiness and preparation are accomplished and accounted for through team management and oversight is important. Moving forward toward operationalizing information technology and executing these toward the mission, deploys these systems through and interoperates with many other systems. So it is important to strategically plan and support these systems in moving forward. Now, as the senior IT manager in this case, they would be responsible for demonstrating their commitment to this project, any modernization project, while being an agent for change. Now, in the past, changes may not have always been welcomed, but perhaps by clearly communicating the compelling need to change and illustrate this impact on this IT improvement, they can foster a more support and reduce resistance to change. And this is how we will move forward into the future with improving technology and actively defending our networks as a whole. And that brings us to the end of this presentation. Now, to review, throughout this presentation, we've discussed the Air Force Communications Unit, located in interior Alaska, responsible for IT and IT services for 4,000 personnel. We've discussed this presenter's personal role in the organization as the operations superintendent, with many functional areas falling within their responsibility. We then used this base to describe the general systems theory perspective and socio-technical system principles. Then we applied these to technological barriers for continued success and how the organization fosters success by overcoming these barriers or mitigating their negative impacts. Just like this culture, the internal culture, internal and external environmental factors place demands upon the organization, both social, technical, and economic considerations. Now, managing these challenges through the use of GST and STS shows how to foster improvement and overcome these environmental factors. And in moving toward the future, it was discussed how IT improvement was possible and the way ahead through modernization and plan change through the systems lifecycle management. Now, in summary, this presentation provided a comprehensive analysis of general systems theory and socio-technical system principles and applied them to the presenter's organization, which is an Air Force Communications Unit. The organization serves as the focal point for information technology and IT services for the designated installation, and showcases how the principles of general systems theory and socio-technical systems apply in daily operations. While general systems theory focuses on system structure and holism, socio-technical systems is a balance between the social and technical subsystems, with the overall goal being joint optimization and producing synergistic effects. Strategies have been developed to address the challenges of budgetary constraints, training, professional development, and integration with legacy equipment. Technological success is achieved through modernization, virtualization, and collaborative elements. To foster future improvement, new elements of change management, active defense, and transformation of IT services were introduced into systems development lifecycle.